All right, so I'm told counsel wanted to see me.
Your Honor, issues has arisen related to the cross-examination or recross-examination of the last witness, and Mr. Alessi would like to address the court in detail about that.
All right, so the last witness was your witness. Is there a reason?
This is a separate issue. I'm asking Mr. Alessi to address the court on this.
Okay. What do you want to tell me, Mr. Alessi?
Bear with me a moment, Your Honor. I need to put on evidence gloves. Your Honor, the defense moves for a mistrial with prejudice based upon intentional misconduct that just occurred before the court and for the jury. And what I'd like to do, Your Honor, this regards the hoodie, and this regards questioning and representations and questioning by Mr. Brennan. And what I'd like to and need to do, Your Honor, is to have two documents marked as exhibits, and then I am going to use Exhibit 88, which is an evidence, which is the hoodie, which is why I'm putting on the evidence gloves, and it will become quite obvious very shortly what the issues are.
All right, so what are the things that you want to have marked?
What I would like to have marked the first document, and I want to get the specific title. These two documents are from the criminalist's file, specifically Ms. Maureen Hartnett's notes regarding cuttings from the hoodie sweatshirt that's in the crime lab file folder.
Okay.
So the first is the back of the hoodie. So with Your Honor's permission, I would have that marked for identification.
Exhibit YYY, Friday.
And may I see that, please? Thank you. Okay.
That is the back of the hoodie, Your Honor. And if I could please have the next marked in order, exhibit for identification.
Exhibit ZZZ, Friday identification.
Just give me a minute to read this, Mr. Alessi.
Yes, Your Honor.
So is it that there are no holes in the back? There were no holes in the back of the sweatshirt?
That's only part of it, but that is in fact the case, Your Honor.
Okay. I can't tell entirely from ZZZ, but if that's your argument, why for identification appears to support that.
Your Honor, may I have the exhibits marked for identification back for my argument?
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Madam Court Reporter. Your Honor, what we just saw is Attorney Brennan question Dr. Wolf with regard to the hoodie sweatshirt that heretofore has been in the plastic casing for trial. And this is the, what happened was Attorney Brennan held up the casing with a hoodie sweatshirt, went to the back of the hoodie sweatshirt. First point to note, Mr. Brennan did not show Mr. Jackson the back of the hoodie sweatshirt, didn't give Mr. Jackson an opportunity to look at it.
Can I just ask a question? I noticed that it was over here at the witness stand this morning, so I assumed everyone was aware that something was going to happen with it. Is that not the case, Mr. Jackson?
That is not the case, Your Honor. The
Okay.
first time I realized that line
Okay.
of question was going to be asked was when Mr. Brennan pulled the case out.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Leslie.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, to do it in order, Mr. Brennan takes the hoodie sweatshirt in the casing, without notice, shows it to Dr. Wolf, and shows the back of the hoodie, which has certain holes, and I'm going to limit calling them holes to do this chronologically. I'm going to refer to exactly what they are in moments.
Okay, so I need to see it. I know you've got gloves on. Where is it right now? It would help me if you held it up for me now,
Absolutely, Your
Mr.
Honor.
Leslie.
So, here is the back
Okay.
of the hoodie.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
It's very obvious that these are cutting holes cut by the criminalist, and I'm going to get to back to this in a moment. But I would like to do it, and certainly entertain any of Your Honor's questions, but in a logical order.
Sure. So I'm not. What about the jurors and lunch? How long do you think this will be?
I think this will take about 10 to 15 minutes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Leslie.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I just want to get the flow back going here in the logic. So, and I'll do it quickly. So Mr. Brennan grabs the hoodie sweatshirt inside the casing, doesn't show it to Attorney Jackson, goes up, we have no idea that this was going to happen, goes up, confronts the witness, Dr. Wolf, shows the back of the hoodie sweatshirt. To my knowledge, the first time the back has been referenced of the hoodie sweatshirt. Shows Dr. Wolf, confronts him, and basically says, couldn't these holes be caused, and I'm paraphrasing, from a fall backwards? Obviously positing in the juror's mind after, remember, we just saw all kinds of videos with regard to Rescue Randy and impact at 24, 29 miles an hour, more aptly 29 miles per hour, and damage to the hoodie, etc. So what then happens is Dr. Wolf is asked a series of questions, very much with the indication that somehow, in the clear implication, that these holes are being caused by road rash, and that the holes in the back of the hoodie sweatshirt, Exhibit 88, could have been or likely were caused with regard to some type of impact. Clearly presented to the jurors with that in mind in that questioning. Here is the basis for the mistrial with prejudice. Those holes in the back of the hoodie sweatshirt are clearly, unequivocally, without doubt, caused nothing to do with any type of event on or about January 29, 2022.
So do you have something you said, when you said obviously cut by the criminalist, do you have something that shows that chart that I couldn't understand quickly? Is it on that? Does
Yes,
that do
Your
the
Honor.
back?
What
Okay.
we have is two documents to show that.
Right. So the second one, when was that provided?
These, when you say provided, you mean with regard to when did the defense get these in
Yes.
a discovery? Let me get the date, Your Honor.
Sure.
Notice of discovery, May 2023.
Okay, thank you.
And I will note, Exhibit YYY. The only, I believe, I'm holding up YYY, which is the back of the hoodie. I believe is the only one, to my knowledge, not put into evidence, not turned into evidence. This is the one that it clearly shows the hoodie before the criminalist started her work with the cuts. There are no cuts to YYY, and if we need to, we'll bring Ms. Hartnett in to confirm.
All right, so is ZZZ in evidence?
ZZZ is not in evidence, and that is part of the basis for the mistrial. It is no coincidence that these two documents are not in evidence, because if they were in evidence, they would clearly have prevented the stunt that we just saw occur with regard to Dr. Wolf. So that is part of the intentional misconduct, Your Honor, is these are documents from the criminalist's file. It's the Commonwealth's documents. And it is very clear when you go to Exhibit ZZZ, the cuts that the criminalist made to the back of the hoodie are specified.
So where on that? Because when I quickly looked at it, I didn't see it. What does it say? Go ahead and read it to me, please.
It's item number 7. I'll read it from the top. LIMS 22-218-4. Analyst MSH, which is the initials for Ms. Hartnett. Dates: May 11, 2022, May 12, 2023, and then May 18, 2023. And what she does is she's got the...
You know what? Can you bring it up to me, please?
I certainly can, Your Honor. And I can conduct my argument from right here if that helps, Your Honor.
I just want to see. Point out to me where it says, where it shows the back.
This is the back. So you can see the back of the hoodie. That's the back of the hoodie head. And then you can see the various... Let me just get a check on this, Your Honor. I'm not...
Right. Mr. Brennan, you should come up and look at this as well.
Thank you.
And I'm
So, Mr. Leslie, stay here.
yes.
All right, so this is why. I didn't see where Ms. Hartnett said that she cut it off, and it was showing here, Mr. Leslie says exterior front.
Can I get the
Well,
check?
they're labeled cuts.
Pardon me?
They're labeled cuts.
Right, but if I can, Your Honor,
Sure.
I want to clarify this. Yes, are you willing just to want? Let me just make sure I get it.
Mr. Jackson, it says exterior front, what Mr. Leslie was pointing me to.
Well, just a second. It may have printed the wrong page. I can do it, but Mr. Wolf, can you print the back? And then, Your Honor, are you comfortable using the computer at the back? Because I think we just had the wrong one.
We need to mark it, though.
I understood.
We will. He's printing it right now. We printed. We wanted to have the front and the back to show all the cuttings, but what only printed out was the front. We are now printing the back. Your Honor is correct.
Okay.
If I may, Your Honor, I'm advised it will take 2 minutes because it has to go to...
All right, so go ahead with your argument.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Your Honor, what is being printed is which we will mark, will be the front of the hoodie. The purpose of Exhibit ZZZ and the one that is being printed is to show and to give the court, and we're going to request to give to the jury the complete picture and the complete true story about these holes in the hoodie that were presented as if they were caused in some manner by something else other than the
So
criminals.
that seems perfectly reasonable, and I'd be inclined to do that.
I appreciate that, Your Honor. And here is the reason for the motion for a mistrial with prejudice. On its own, to do this, and you put together all of the parts of what just occurred. You start with the fact that and if I could, Your Honor, now that I have it get marked so I can then refer to it.
All right.
Thank you.
Can you print extra copies too, so I can have my own copy?
Absolutely.
And for the Commonwealth to see?
And I'm going to show the Commonwealth what I just printed.
Exhibit A.
Thank you, Madam Court Reporter. Sure. And here's another document, chain of custody document. Welcome. Well, Mr. Brenner's reviewing that. When I had to, Madam Court Reporter, the chain of custody document for these, and that's that he marked as the next exhibit in order.
Okay.
And then with Your Honor's permission, I would have Madam Court Reporter hand them both up to Your Honor so
Sure.
Your Honor can see what I'm referencing.
Thank you.
Exhibit B for ID.
Thank you.
Here it is. Thank you, Madam Court Reporter.
Do you need this, Mr. Lessie?
I do not need either of them, Your Honor, and I have the extra copies as well. Okay, so Your Honor, I now have enough copies for Your Honor and for the Commonwealth.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
So if I could have one set, that would be great. Yeah, Your Honor. Thank you.
I still do not have ZZZ.
Nor do I. I don't need them.
All right. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Lessie.
So, Your Honor, to do this quickly chronologically, so we have a hoodie sweatshirt that was brought into the criminalist, Ms. Hartnett, with the back of the hoodie with no holes on it. The criminalist makes cuts to the back of the hoodie, makes cuts to the front of the hoodie. The exhibit, Your Honor, depicts those. There's a chain of custody document that describes the chain of custody for the hoodie and the cuts in the chronology. And of course, we have Exhibit 88, which is the hoodie. So, what Mr. Brennan did and I'm now pulling Exhibit 88. He holds up the back of the hoodie, which has cuts in the back from the criminalist, somebody from the Commonwealth, a witness in this case, Ms. Hartnett. She's testified, and Mr. Brennan has indicated he wants her to come back and testify, which we welcome. And now what we have is we have holes in the back of the sweatshirt that were dramatically held up to and confronted with Dr. Wolf, and then the jury sees it. With the clear, unmistakable, purposeful intention of having the jury conclude that these holes could have come from events on January 29th of 2022, when in fact the Commonwealth well knows from its own documents, from its own criminalist, that those holes in the back were caused by their criminalist as part of their examination and sampling of the hoodie. What could be more egregious? What could be more misleading than that? And what could be more important for a context than the alleged collision that never occurred? That's the topic before some of the most significant and probative witnesses in this trial that the Commonwealth has been attacking from the jump of pretrial. They picked the most opportune, sensitive time to pull this stuff. This is intentional. This is irremediable. This is on the key issue of this case, whether there was any collision at all. On its own, Your Honor, on its own, this is a mistrial with prejudice. But I add to that what just happened, and I'm not going to repeat or go into other than to reference. This comes on just mere days after the Commonwealth raised the specter of absence of DNA on the same hoodie sweatshirt without having the criminalist, Ms. Kuhn from UC Davis come in. I know Your Honor already ruled on that.
Right,
and
so let's move along from
right,
that.
that's right, and I'm going to come back to this. Why is this occurring, Your Honor? Why is this happening? The Commonwealth has no case. They have no collision. They are desperate and are trying to create evidence of specters of collision where the evidence doesn't support it. So what have we come to? We've come to the manufacture of evidence. We've come to, incredibly, taking a hoodie, a key piece of evidence in this case, and holding up to Dr. Wolf, the ARCA expert, to try to make it seem like Dr. Wolf didn't do his job. You didn't account for these holes. How could you be a credible accident reconstructionist when you talk about some holes, but you don't talk about these holes? Knowing all along the holes that Attorney Brennan is trying to impeach Dr. Wolf on were caused by the Commonwealth's own criminalists as part of sampling. I don't believe one could come up with more misleading, misdirecting elucidation of testimony than this on the key issue in the case. We have irrefutable, objective evidence, and I will state that it's more than interesting that none of these exhibits that Your Honor now has marked for identification were put in evidence by the Commonwealth. Isn't it some coincidence that these are the one, and the only one of the, you know, with regard to the hoodie, the back of it's not in, although the rest of them are, but these aren't. Your Honor, I think there is one and only one conclusion, in that this is intentional, that it is a matter of such significance and of such misconduct and intentional that it merits the sanction of a mistrial with prejudice. The amount of effort, the amount of work, I can't even begin to think to remedy this in front of the jury, to go backwards on this. That should not befall the defense. That should befall the prosecution. Ms. Reed, again, is entitled, like every other defendant in this wonderful Commonwealth, to a fair trial. The prosecution is supposed to be held to a higher standard, to do justice, to create a fair trial. This is the antithesis of a fair trial. Miss Reed's rights under the Constitution and the Declaration of Rights have once again been trampled on, and it is becoming evidently clear the more desperate the prosecution gets because it can't prove its theory, including its own medical examiner can't support them, that they're now resorting to conduct like this. Your Honor, at some point, this has to come to an end. At some point, Ms. Reed's rights have to be protected. At some point, confidence in the judicial system, the public's confidence in the judicial system, that prosecutors will conduct themselves with their duty to present a fair trial. That has to be enforced at some point for Ms. Reed to receive the fair trial that she and every other defendant in this Commonwealth is entitled to.
All right, thank you. Mr. Brennan.
Your Honor, my brief review of the lab paperwork and looking at the hoodie, it appears that I made a mistake. And so I think what should happen is there should be a curative instruction. There should be a stipulation. The court should instruct the jury that during Mr. Brennan's cross-examination, he asked Dr. Wolf about holes on the sweatshirt or holes on the back of Mr. O'Keefe's sweatshirt. The parties agree the holes were made by a crime lab technician. This was done inadvertently but should not have been asked. The court should strike the questions and the answers. And you should instruct the jury they are to completely disregard any questions or answers about the holes in the back of the sweatshirt. And the court should allow the defense to introduce the lab paperwork.
All right. So I'm not going to allow the mistrial motion, Mr. Alessi. What I'm going to do is instruct the jurors. I'm going to put in what's been marked for identification, Y, Z, A, and B. 4 of each letters. I'm going to put all these into evidence. They can be displayed for the jury, and I'm going to instruct the jury that during the cross-examination of Dr. Wolf, Mr. Brennan asked him about holes in the back of the sweatshirt and whether or not they perhaps could have come from events or implying or something like this. I instruct you, you are not permitted to draw any inference that these could have come from the events of January 29th, 2022. I instruct you further that those holes were made by the criminalist, Ms. Harnett, during the course of her inspection and sampling of the sweatshirt on, I just put the dates aside. Chrissy, can I see those, please? It's unclear for me. Do you have a better idea, Mr. Alessi, what day these were done? Is it all of those 3 days? Now I see a fourth day. 5/11, no, I'm sorry, 5/11, 5/12, 5/11, 2022, 5/12, 2023, and 6/18, 2023. Those are the 3 dates?
Your Honor, on or about May 18th, when the defense filed a motion to test. So those are, that's the probative date.
So May 18th?
Yes, that's good.
Okay.
And that's 2023.
Yep. All right. That's what I'm going to do. Is there anything further you want me to include in the instruction? Your rights are saved regarding the mistrial. I disagree with you on that.
Your Honor, I'm not going to go any more into the argument, but I appreciate the opportunity to provide perhaps some further instructions for Your Honor.
So I'll hear you. Go ahead.
So the first, Your Honor, is with regard to two things. One, I would like the opportunity to have the hoodie sweatshirt held up, because that's what
Okay.
happened.
Yes. Yes.
These holes in the
Yes.
back.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So that's number one as part of the stipulation, and then
I'm not wording it as a stipulation, and I'm not saying it was inadvertent. I am giving an instruction that they cannot consider it for this purpose, and I am allowing these to be placed into evidence. So it's not a stipulation. It's from me, which I think is more forceful.
I misspoke, Your Honor. I agree, not a stipulation, but just as Your Honor said, with regard to the matter Your Honor said they're not to take an inference, I would respectfully request that this be handled just like Your Honor did with regard to the rock at 34 Fairview. Your Honor said that rock wasn't present, on or about the time of event.
So I do say that when I say Ms. Harnett did this. So rewording it just a little bit.
Yes, exactly.
Mr. Brennan asked Dr. Wolf about holes in the back of the sweatshirt. I instruct you that you are not permitted to draw any inference that those holes were a result of the events on January 29th, So, all right, this is what I'm going to say. So if you're not going to listen to it, that's fine. I've already said it. All right, we can bring the jury in. It's what I said, Mr. Alessi.
Your Honor, I was consulting with Mr. Alessi. I'm not showing disrespect to the court.
Okay.
Of course you were listening to me.
All right, so it's what I said, Mr. Alessi. I instruct you that you're not permitted to draw an inference that the holes came from the events of January 29, 2025. Those holes were made by the criminalist, Ms. Harnett, during the course of her inspection and sampling of the sweatshirt on May 18, 2023.
Is it possible, Your Honor, last comment, to instead of not drawing inference, you should conclude that these holes were not present in the hoodie sweatshirt. They were caused by the criminalist.
So I can just leave that all out then and just say, Mr. Brennan asked Dr. Wolf about the holes in the sweatshirt. I instruct you that those holes were made by the criminalist, Ms. Harnett, during the course of her inspection and sampling of the sweatshirt on May 18th. It's probably neater that way anyway. All right, let's bring them in, please.
Judge, just as a housekeeping matter, the sweatshirt's been taken out of the plastic sheet, and it might need to be remarked. The plastic sheeting was marked, but if we're going to put it into a bag or something like that, we might need to have it marked. But we don't need to do that right this second.
Okay.
May I approach Mr. McDermott with exhibit
Yes.
88?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Oh, sorry. Mr. Alessi, you're simply going to stand and hold the sweatshirt, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Counsel, this is Exhibit 223.
And Your Honor, I would hold it as Your Honor begins to read. Is that consistent with Your Honor's expectation?
No, I want you to hold it up with the back.
What would you like me to start with?
You do that first, and then I'll give the instruction.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, so Mr. Alessi, why don't you just, where are you going to stand?
Pardon me?
Where are you going to stand?
I would suggest, Your Honor, right about here.
All right? So you can stand there, you can hold it up, then I'm going to ask you to put it down, and then I'll give the instruction.
And then I will return it to Mr. McDermott, or the court officer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Court officer.
Bear with me a moment, Your Honor. I'm going to re-put on the record.
All right, then we will take the luncheon recess. When we come back, we'll have the voir dire. Or actually, is Dr. Lapisada here?
She's here, but she's on next. We're going to call John T.
For just the measurements?
Your Honor, we're not going to be able to show the exhibits from Ms. Hartnett or the cuts along with the next step of instruction to show the cuts that were made by Ms. Hartnett. Along with
Well, I say it, and I'm going to tell her what they are, so. Jurors, I appreciate your patience. Mr. Alessi, why don't you hold the exhibit up for the jurors, please? All right, jurors, that's the back of the sweatshirt that was shown to Dr. Wolf. Okay, thank you. Why don't you go ahead and put it back in the bag? So, jurors, I instruct you that those holes were made by the criminalist, Ms. Harnett, during the course of her inspection and sampling of the sweatshirt back on May 18th, 2023. Okay?